scientific community who actually was running a study on their land, through the CHNEP for the entire year. And also Lake Master who actually managed this pond. And they have sometimes I see a lot of people saying that those lake management guys are bad guys, but they're trying to do the bad things and they're trying to please you. And I think the technical message here, before I actually start, is to acknowledge that they're like the farmers nowadays. And those farmers in America, they can produce good food, but as long as we want cheap food, they'll do cheap food. So it's the same thing for this company. If you want to change and spend money to manage this pond in the right way, they'll do it. Sure, it'll cost more money. It's much better for the environment. All right, so I'm going to start by just giving you an overview of where the study is located. So it's Pelican Landing. It's actually a very big, very big community. As you can see, about 4,000 homes, right? 91 wet ponds, 2,265 acres of land, and in the wet pond surface area, water surface area, is more than 16 acres. As you can see, they not only have homes, they also have retail space, office space, hotel rooms, conference centers, boat space, and so on and so forth. So it's a very pretty wealthy community, I would say. Now, when I started to study this pond, I was given a budget. And all the time the budget is low. And I say, well, how am I going to tackle all of this pond? We have 91 of them. So I started to actually grow some, I'm not sure, actually better how the ponds were connected. And I did this for 10 different watershed where the ponds are connected. And out of these 10, I randomly selected 11 only. And these 11 ponds that were selected were encompassing about a third of the surface area of the 91 ponds. Those 11 ponds here, for some reason, we didn't have any here on the west side. Just to locate again, quick on this one. This is where the community is located. So we have Coconut Road here, so it's really just right in the zero. You have this Lane to the west. You have Spring Creek here to the south, and then US 41 that runs parallel to it. So these were the 11 ponds, the 11 ponds that were selected. They all have names with letters, so no beautiful names. So they range from A2 to A8 and A13, so they're on the lowest corner here. So these actually were built in 1985, and then you have here another set of ponds which were built in 1992, and these are 1996 ponds, so much more recent ponds. Okay. Some ponds are also very, very convoluted. For example, C4, which actually is a series of connected little ponds. And I would like you guys to remember that pond because here in the northern part is surrounded by houses, and the southern part is surrounded by houses. But here, actually, there's no houses around. It's just flowing into a preserve, and you'll see that. And we use that as like control to show you how this pond should be normally if there was nobody around. All right. So what was the goal? The goal was first to assess the health of 11 ponds with the Bayside Improvement Bay Creek Community Development Pelican Landing, aka Pelican Landing. We wanted to look at how the pond will change over the course of the full hydrological year. So basically by looking at different parameters, temperature, conductivity, nutrients, and also what is very rarely done, the sedimentation, the sediment on the bottom of these ponds as well. We also looked at sediment and floc accumulation. So the floc is a flocculent layer. It runs like water. It's basically a very low density, and that's why it sits on top of the sediment, which is more compact. And then next line, the trophic status index called TSI, and that TSI is a number between 0 and 100. When you're close to 0, it means that you're low-loaded in nutrients. And when you have a higher number up to 100, it's very, very loaded in nutrients, so it's hypertrophic. So I'll show you the different classification I'm going to be using. This is based on the water, and already I can also tell you that this number is high because these ponds are managed, and the the algae development is controlled by algae. So if you're using algae to calculate the TSI, you can go wrong a little bit. And then, the idea also would be to provide some guidance to and tool for the future pond management. So in terms of guidance and tool, I already told them I'm going to do the bathymetric math to know exactly what the volume you have in each of these ponds. So you know how much chemical you need to use. So you can dose adequately. Especially, I recommend very often to use dyes to dye the water so the water becomes more opaque, so the algae don't grow as much. And you don't want to overdose it because then you will kill the aquatic. So it's a balancing act, knowing exactly how much volume you have in your pond. These are the examples we can provide to the community. So for most of you guys, you already know what stormwater ponds. Anybody here doesn't know anything? No? The teacher here starts talking? That's cool. Come on. So it is a picture of a typical pond actually, which is very well maintained. As you can see, it's got a nice recording zone planted on the side. And you have the open water here. You have 41 slope, and these ponds are supposed to detain the water for a certain amount of time during the dry season and deliver it during the rainy season. So you actually are mimicking the natural pattern that were existing prior to human settlement here. So during the dry season, the water is being retained to the land, it doesn't really flush to the ocean, and during the rainy season, it's being delivered. So this is just from the hydrology part. Now you also have the nutrients and also the pollutants are supposed to be kept into this pond, whether through sedimentation, so it's like a pit, if you want, a decantation pit, or the total suspended solid will basically sediment down to the bottom, so you have less of this stuff into the ocean. And also the nutrient, which are going to be taken to some extent by the surrounding lawn, and have to fertilize. I see lawn actually as a way to treat the water. If you don't fertilize your lawn and the water is taking the runoff, it's good. And also you have the critter living in the water that will be providing a direct benefit in uptaking nutrients and sequestering, not a good word these days, and capturing these nutrients. So the idea is that this pond will actually capture up to 80% of the pollutant. Alright, so it's a biological and a sediment trap, biological filter and sediment trap. The problem is that these ponds very often are viewed by the community as an aesthetic and actually a gain to the front view properties. My student actually did a survey where they compared front view and non-front view properties, and basically the added value is about 20% in the front view property. So they really love their pond, and because they come most of them from northern state, they're accustomed to glacial lake appearance. And in Florida, we know that the lake, if it's actually low-loaded in nutrient, will turn into an Everglades-like system, especially if the lake is calcium carbonate based. And they see this algae, and they kill the algae and add a pesticide, a algaecide to kill the algae. And then the lake turns turbid and very, very badly maintained. So, we have a problem here. We have a lot of these ponds, and this is also for my students. They basically try on the 10% success of Lake County pond to estimate the age of the pond, and actually that's a very tedious job to do. And this is basically, when we extrapolated this 10% success out of this 7,600 ponds that we counted in Lake County, this is a trend from 1960 to 2008. So you can see that you had a very big boom around the 2000 and 2008. The collapse of the housing market kind of slowed down, but now it's coming back again. So we do have a problem because, again, it's not well maintained, and I think Mark, my student, talked about it. We're exporting a lot of nutrients. I haven't made comparison, but my first guess would be maybe comparable to what the Calusa actually is bringing to the estuary. So these are all of these yellow dots. Not sure you see them on the screen here. Yes, you do. They actually are actual ponds that my student packed onto on Google Earth and look at their surface area, shoreline index development, and so on and so forth. So there's more in my research. Alright, so we've now talked about the method I used very briefly. Basically, we took sediment cores. This is an example of a lake. This is Lake E11. And we took sediment cores in the center of the lake, and we tried to cover the most surface area. Alright, assuming that we have most sedimentation on the bottom of the lake. And we do that only once a year because we assume again that the sediment amount will not change over 1 year. And then we also have a station depending on the convolution of the lake, the several stations, and the size also. And we look at temperature, conductivity, ORP, and other, and taking nutrient samples. And we do that every month. So we're using very, very typical methods to survey these ponds. All right, here we get to the results. So these are preliminary results. I got my result pretty late, actually last Friday, so it's not finished yet. Everybody who's been in my shoes know what I'm talking about. But basically we did hit a full cycle, as you can see, with the temperature. We started in February and we ended up in January, so we have the peak of the summer here. And you see that the DO actually is lower during the summer. And when you actually had a lot of rain this year, we had a 25-year flood event, we actually had a lowering of the oxygen level very low, and that goes in par with the ORP. That actually we had a lot of fish kill. And the reason is that we had a lot of stagnating water this year that actually got flushed into the lake and triggered bacterial activity and respiration and dropped significantly the oxygen level, and we had fish kill. So anoxia was very prevalent near the bottom of the lake, and hypoxia was always present. 5 here is the limit, 5 milligram per liter is the limit where fish can actually be stressed by a low oxygen level. Then for the pH, this is like a mostly alkaline lake. And I'm not sure why we have that spike here at the pH in the end of the year. But it's important to understand that the pH, because it's high, it will actually favor the Everglades-like algae, the calcium carbonate-based attached algae. People are familiar with periphyton, this is what it is. People make this stuff floating on the surface, and very often homeowners think, oh, I have a bloom. No, it's not a bloom, it's actually a community, a healthy community, not out. This is also mostly a little bit slightly saline, as you can see by the conductivity. And the chlorophyll is kind of all over the chart here. And the reason it's spiking up and down is because they're managed. Like last year, we see the bloom. It's present. Okay, so it's very difficult to really see how they change for the biological component because it's managed. They are managed things. All right, so for the nutrient now, you can see that the range. I'm going to do a PCA in the future to actually ordinate this better. But you can see that the nitrogen is kind of high, on the high side. Phosphorus can spike very, very high here, as you can see. That's 600 microgram per liter. But generally around 150 or 60 microgram per liter. And the eukaryotic zone is generally pretty clear because, again, they're maintained with the sulfate because water is maintained artificially clear. So, these sometimes are phosphorus limited, so what we do is a mass and DNTP ratio. So most of them actually are phosphorus limited, meaning that a small amount of phosphorus would trigger a naturally algae bloom if everything is there. And half of the other one are balanced. They're not nitrogen limited, probably because of the nitrogen fertilizer getting to these lakes. If we get to the TSI, we can see that only one or a couple, sometimes hyper-eutrophic, Most of them are eutrophic, so nutrient-rich. And only a few are mesotrophic. And this is actually the lake I talked to you guys about, the long C4 lake, where the center part is actually preserved. So normally, this lake should be mesotrophic. All right, now we look now at the sediment, and this is the complex of the map. Basically, you have four information on one slide here. You have the different pond on the bottom, so from A2 to E11. And then here, on the bottom here, you have the sediment, and you can see what is organic is here barred, what is inorganic in dark gray, and you have the flocculent layer sitting on top, which is white inorganic and grayish organic. All right? During my survey, they also did a fossil treatment. And what we can see here with fossil treatment is that they had a lot of sediment here, and they used a fossil which is supposed to lock phosphorus, and we have a reduction of the thickness of the buck. Now, if we look at the total phosphorus that we have in this pond, you can see that it's pretty high. I always cite Lake Aquatic as my benchmark. If you know Lake Aquatic, I got my flaggers here. Thank you. It's actually loaded with sediment. As you can see, I'm only my side of the buck, right? But I'm using Ecology because it's very loaded in nutrient, and this is what we have typically for flocculent layer and sediment in terms of nutrient concentration in the sediment. And you can see that most of these, like especially for phosphorus, they actually have reached that threshold. So it means that even though the water was, phosphorus limited, you have a lot of phosphorus in the sediment. This is sediment TP again, and the block TN, total nitrogen. So we are close to not there yet. And sediment TN, so just below it, sediment. Okay, so pretty high. That's this. So we get to. I'm sure that's the organic portion of the sediment was very highly rich in organic. Organic is bad because when it gets oxidized, the bacteria oxidize that organic matter and release CO2 and can create anoxia, especially near the sediment. So again, these are preliminary data. I kind of summarize them, tonight. And what I found interesting is that when you look at the thickness on the bottom here of my graph, and we look here at the organic percentage of sediment and the total carbon and the TN, it looks like they kind of match. So when I did a little correlation between the two, this is what we have. It looks like, and this is significant, it's not great for the fit, but it looks like the thickness, the thicker the sediment or the flock is, the more TP, TN, TC, and organic matter we have. And I'm not sure how to explain that yet, because I would have assumed that it would be either random or it's the same concentration. So I don't know what really happened here, but it actually is all the time for them. The other thing I tried to do for a minute, is to try to see if I can calculate my own TSI based on the sediment. Because the water column changes all the time, the sediment is more, stays longer in the column. So I tried to see if I could find a correlation between TP, TN, TC, and the TSI, and unfortunately I didn't find anything. But again, I'm calculating my TSI based upon TP, TN, water clarity, and chlorophyll, which are controlled. So I should rerun this just by using TP, TN. Alright, so in terms of conclusion, and I guess I'll talk to you now, is basically, we have good preliminary data. These lakes have some muck on the bottom. That muck is pretty loaded with phosphorus, as we've seen, and fairly loaded with nitrogen. The additional load in nutrients is probably pretty high. Okay, and that creates a problem in terms of long-term management because they release nutrient all the time. Even if you cut all the sources of nutrient to the lake, you'll still have nutrient loading from the lake, producing algae, which are knocked out by using algaecide. Again, the TSI is highly biased, and I need to rerun also this entire database by entering all the different factors. What type of construction do we have around? How many aerator do we have in the pond? What are the usages of the pond? We have the golf course community. We have only houses around. So I need to do more work in different multi-dimensional analysis to make more sense because we have a lot of data, as you can see. Phosphate didn't seem really to work very well. I didn't see much change in the lake appearance. And what the cool thing though is I could predict TP, TN, TC, and organic percentage of organic in the block just by looking at the sediment tables. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. We definitely have time for a few questions. If anyone has a question, please step to the microphone.
Hi, sir. Are city development districts required to meet NPDES standards instead of government entity?
I believe they have their own rules. That's what they were told. That was told, yes.
So hopefully,
The city told me they make their own rules, especially for golf courses. There's not really anything that I spend very often in my potential meetings. Those people surrounded by golf courses just try to do the best thing for the lake, but they're probably gaining, more water influx from putting water into the pond.
so hopefully this data will be useful to them to help deal with some of their problems so this water doesn't end up in sterile bay.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Time for another question?
I want to answer.
Will do.
What's your advice about how to inspire homeowners to do the right thing?
Lots of legwork. Basically, you gotta talk to them a lot. You gotta be patient. You gotta make them swallow ideas, which even Ernesto says that's a hard sell. For example, when I tell them about the good and the bad algae, I'm talking about these natural scum of python that float on the lake, and I say it's good. They don't really see it from the same perspective as an ecologist. But I think that the more you talk to them, the more actually they understand it, the more actually they do the change. And I've seen these changes happen. I've seen people starting to actually plant around all the periphery of the pond. I've seen people say, we don't want to use any copper sulfate. So it's a long battle. So I'm a pusher, all right? And I'm trying to make things change. And I think I've seen things change. And that's what you agree? I think so.
Okay, thank you very much. Great presentation.